Dr. Homebrew is brought to you by 5 Star Chemicals, providing safety and cleaning supplies for brewing, distilling, and winemaking at 5starchemicals.com.
Doctor, look.
Stand aside, nurse. I'm Dr. Homebrew.
Stand clear.
Welcome, everybody. This is Dr. Homebrew, and this is the greatest night of my life, even above the birth of my daughter. I'm drinking 2 Pilsners out of 2 different glasses. I never thought
this happens.
I never thought this day would come. I want to thank my family and friends for being there and knowing that we could really make the brewing industry something that would make something that I would want to drink.
Yeah. It's
what is that second Pilsner there, bro?
This is the Pally Pils from Honolulu Beer Works. I was just over there proctoring an exam, and it's a German-style Pilsner.
Oh. Do you get paid for that? Like, do they fly you out there?
They do contribute towards, because you need to get a certain number of high-level judges out there for those. So there's a stipend, towards your travel costs. So they kind of expect the local people to kind of pitch in and, put you up, help out with other things. And I hardly paid for a beer while I was there. It was great.
Were the local judges like as against California and American stateside judges? Like, you come over here and you ruin our beer scores.
Yeah, they're all down with USA judges.
That's cool.
Yeah, mainland Howley.
Why can't I hear you? Say a word. Say a word again.
Words.
Hey.
Yeah. Are we there?
Matt.
It's been so long. I forgot how to do everything.
Yeah, it's been a while since you had more than just one judge in the studio.
It's been a hot minute. Welcome back, Brian. I hope your family is alive still.
Everybody's good, yeah.
Everybody's good. All
Everybody's
right.
good.
That's good. We missed you.
Him up.
But Brian Shar is here again, and he did very good. He did a very good job, Brian Shar.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that candid on-air performance evaluation.
Well, as long as the check clears, dude, I'll say whatever the hell you want me to say. And then we have Matt Sanger, of course, from Danville Brewing Company. I said Sanger.
Yeah.
You said Sanger, I thought.
Yeah,
Sanger. Yeah,
I did.
Yeah.
I run it together. I didn't mean in my head. In my head, I know what it is. Although I prefer it to be Sanger because I think it's just what I want to say.
It flows off the tongue a lot easier. Matt Sanger. Yeah.
Right.
But it's Sanger. Anyway,
thanks
for having me.
To me, it sounded exactly the same. I think I'm broken.
I think he's got a silent N in his name that's an invisible N.
Right.
See, there you go. It's,
a squiggle over the top or something.
It's like the C in rock. It's silent. It's just, it is what it is. Well, welcome. Anyway.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And you have your assistant boy here, right?
My boy.
Yes. What was your name again, man? I'm sorry. Michael. But see, Michael is no good on the radio because as he leaned back, he said his name. My name's Michael.
Yeah, nope.
What's your name? Michael? Michael, how you doing, dude?
Not bad.
Yeah, thanks for coming and hanging out.
Thanks for having me.
Michael helps me brew at Danville Brewing.
Awesome.
Yeah, he helps sling beer with me.
How's the Danville Brewing?
It's going great.
Yeah?
It's doing very well, yeah.
I noticed you answered before Michael. Just to make sure he knows that he can't actually say what's really going on.
It's going great, Michael.
Why are you kicking him under the table? I don't understand. Things are going good?
Yeah. Having a great time.
Awesome.
We just had our 2nd anniversary. And
wow.
Yeah.
That's cool, dude.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Names. Yeah.
Well, God bless. We have beer to talk about tonight, everybody. We have beer to drink and people who brewed the beer on the show, which is a totally new and exciting thing.
Yeah, that's kind of what we do here.
Yeah. Before we do that, though, I want to thank our sponsor, 5 Star Chemicals. You can go to 5starchemicals.com and learn about the best ways to keep your brewing equipment clean and sanitary. It's PBW, 5 Star, and a bunch of other stuff. So check them out, 5starchemicals.com. They're good people. They want you to make good beer. They won't make better beer because you're probably making. Well, I shouldn't say it. You're probably making beer.
Most everybody on the show makes good or very good or even excellent beer.
That's true. That's true. Although I haven't brought any beer in for a while, so you can't say that we make excellent beer because I haven't.
Well, yeah.
Because you're referring to my tier when you say
drag us down to fair or problematic.
Right. I do actually have some beer, and I totally forgot about it.
Oh man.
I forgot about it, but that's okay. I'm sure it'll be left over.
I brought Hawaii beer. I'm still on island time a little bit. It's kind of cool. I just stay up really late, but then I still have to get up at the same time, so it's kind of,
That kind of is not cool. It's cool when you're doing it. It's like, I have a lot of energy. It's 2 in the morning. Oh, God. I stayed up till 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
Dude, that time, like around midnight, that's like the golden hour for dads because you can be awake and get shit done.
I got so much stuff done in my garage. Yeah.
My daughter's in the. She's very. She's in this. She's very sullen now. So it doesn't matter. She takes off to her room. We don't see her for an hour.
I don't care.
Did you play Fortnite or something? Or
not yet. No, she's all about the. What's that thing with the blocks and you put the
Legos?
Minecraft. There you go. Yeah.
Look at me, Legos. The old guy. Legos. Duplo blocks.
I don't have children.
Lincoln blocks.
It's pretty
awesome. Like, I don't know. When I stay up till midnight, it's because I want to, not because I have to.
I do whatever I want.
Yeah. Speaking of doing whatever you want, I don't know. Brian is on the line, and he sent us a Marzen. Brian, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Perfect. Yes, sir.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, Brian.
Hi, Brian.
Hey.
We have 3 Brians on the show right this second, and I got to say, you can never have too many Brians at one time.
I don't know.
That's right.
It's a good thing. I don't know. It's a good thing you're not in the studio because I think we would implode.
I got to ask though, man, are you an I Brian or a Y Brian?
Which one's the right way?
Whatever makes you feel good. That's the right way.
Right. Well, I'm a Y Brian.
Oh no! We'll try not to hold that against you.
All right, that's fair.
All right, so Marzen, man, have you brewed a Marzen before, or is this your first try at it?
I haven't, and actually, sitting next to me is my brother-in-law Jonathan, who's part of this brew as well.
Okay.
So my birthday was about a month ago. Jonathan came to me with the idea of purchasing some ingredients and brewing up an Oktoberfest for, the fall/winter months of the Midwest.
There you go.
So here we are.
Okay, so if it sucks, it's his fault.
That's right, and he's sitting right here, and he's going to take all that shit.
Nice. Yeah. Well, he sounds like a good brother-in-law, then, if he's going to sit there and just get assaulted by us. Or praised. Who can tell? The pendulum swings both ways. Well, okay, let's start judging your beer then. Oh, you know what I should have done? Should have got another bottle.
Yeah.
Here, let me go do that. Here, you guys talk amongst yourselves.
We have a friend in the back
bottle
here that can get one.
Yeah. Well, but you don't know where it is.
Well, you can tell me.
It's a, what is it? Is it the red cap?
The Marzen.
No, it's in the white cap. It's in a thing. I'm just going to do it.
It has a white label.
You guys talk to Brian. I'll cut this out of the show. It'll be
Hi,
great.
Brian.
It'll sound great.
Hey, Brian.
Hi, Brian.
So, how long have you been brewing, my friend?
So, it depends on how much you like my beer, I guess. 5
Either
years.
6 years or 6 months.
Yeah. So around 5 years, I'd say.
And what got you into that? Did somebody buy you a kit, or you just wanted to try it out? Had some friends that did it, or?
Yeah. So graduated college. I was really into beer. My brother actually got me into brewing. He came to me and he's like, "Hey, we can make this stuff." I'm a chemistry major and all that, so I like science.
Yeah.
So kind of gravitated that way, and making beer seemed like a good idea, and then pretty much got obsessed with it.
Yeah. Yeah, sciencey people, like we have a lot of lab people and a lot of, tech people in our area, and some of them brew the best beer. Mm-hmm. They really pay attention.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, well, let's crack this second bottle open. That would be cool. And pour it into some glasses so I can try a little bit. And then who wants to start with the first go here?
Let's we haven't had Matt here for a while.
Matt,
why don't we let him go? Let him go.
Yeah.
Matt, why don't you go ahead and go and tell Brian all about your thoughts on his Marzen, on Jonathan's Marzen, potentially.
Well, I wrote these notes probably a half hour ago, and now I'm I'm smelling it again as it's warmed, and I'm getting the same thing I got. The very first thing that hit me was this deep toasted nuttiness that I really enjoyed. Mm-hmm. Toasted nuts like walnut. I also wrote hazelnut. I'm getting a lot of like a hazelnut aroma, but I'm also getting sort of a dark fruit and. Maybe maybe I'm not getting it now because I just was poured a cold bottle, sort of a bruised apple. But one thing that struck me was the lack of foam, and it's just I don't know how did you bottle it from a keg?
Yeah. So it was caveman style bottling from a keg.
Yeah, just. Little flat, but man, yeah, that toasty aspect is spot on. I'm maybe getting a little bit of a oxidized note, sort of a dusty, wet paper on the flavor. But another thing that struck me was as far as the aftertaste is it's pretty astringent. Tell me about your how you mashed and your water profile and all that.
Sure. So started with store-bought distilled water and built it up from there. It was just simple gypsum and calcium chloride, and then a little bit of acid. Not too much because I did have some darker malts in there.
Right.
But,
yeah, it's
that was really it.
Fairly dark color.
Yeah.
It's on the darker end for the style.
Yeah. Did you steer clear of the caramel malt in this?
I've got some Caram Munich, but no other caramel malts other than that.
Yeah. What about is this partial mash, full?
I do a brew in a bag. Basically, okay. I've got a 15-gallon kettle and a brew bag. So I mash full volume.
Okay, all right. But yeah, I really liked the initial malt aroma, malt flavor, that really nice toasty nuttiness. I don't know. I was of the minority, but I thought that it probably could use a little more bitterness. Style guidelines say a moderate amount of bitterness in this beer. I would like just a touch more, but I think what gets me is that astringency that just carries on. When did you brew this beer? Just out of curiosity.
It was brewed beginning of September.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they said they were just talking about doing it.
Yeah.
So it's pretty
long ago.
Yeah. And maybe that's where that sort of bruised apple thing is coming from, or it might be a bit too young.
Sure.
But other than that, I really enjoyed it. It's nice and dry, clean, dry finish.
Yeah, definitely. So,
did you score it?
I did.
What'd you give it?
I gave this a 29.
Okay.
I mainly knocked it for the astringency, and it just seems a little oxidized.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, Brian.
All right, so I'm going to skip ahead just very briefly, speaking to that astringency. So when you were done with the mash, did you gently grab the sack and perhaps squeeze in a gentle manner to get all of the liquid out? Or what did you let it just sit there and drip for a while?
Are we talking about brewing beer?
That sounds like a personal
right
question,
now.
and Jonathan might have to answer that one.
How do you treat your bag, sir?
Yes, how do you handle your sack when you're brewing?
I did not touch the sack. Yeah, that's a Jonathan question. So I've got kind of a full strap hooked up to a ladder and hoist it out that way, and then it just drips in. I don't really squeeze it with any force, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's no manhandling.
Yeah, that's probably for the best, because that is going to lead to some astringency potentially.
Yeah, I always thought that was bullshit, because people always use the tea bag like scenario where you squeeze a tea bag. People squeeze tea bags all the time, but the reason their tea is bitter is because they fucking use boiling water. You're not supposed to use boiling water.
It might be a monopoly,
That's why.
right? It might be just a monopoly, right? I make tea, and I will go back and I'll loose tea, and I'll go back and pour more water in later. And of course, it's astringent because it's been sitting there in water for half an hour.
What temperature do you use?
About 190.
No, dude. What kind of tea is it?
Black tea.
You 160.
Okay.
All right, anyway.
So you got a strap under the sack.
Dr. Tea Brew
Go ahead.
today.
Go ahead.
So I like Matt. I thought the malt character was great. It was very bready, Vienna, Munich, and the aroma. Got very low, sort of earthy hop aroma. Sort of a slight fruitiness. Gave the aroma a 9. Appearance 2 out of 3. It was very clear. Color was that perfect copper. But the head was very low and dissipated very quickly. And this is a style you really want to have a bigger, rockier head that persists a little longer. And I suspect that comes from just bottling from the keg, which is a thing that most of us do who keg. We just kind of bottle from the keg, and that's just how, even if you got a beer gun, because it's a pain to put that beer gun together, even though it's great. Flavor. That malt was at a high level. It was very bready and toasty. Low to medium bitterness to balance, very well attenuated, some low spicy hop flavor. But the finish was long and balanced slightly to bitterness, which I liked. The style guidelines technically talk about how the finish is long and malty. Mm-hmm. So according to the style, probably this was a little bit too bitter. But from a standpoint of what I like to drink, I thought this was really appropriately bitter. As it warms, it gets a little bit different character that's definitely minerally. And when you talked about building your water from distilled, that was, a couple of us in the studio here were kind of nodding and thinking about that mineral character that we tasted. And I kind of, in skipping ahead to the overall impression a little bit, I would suggest next time you brew this, or next time you brew, you might try dialing back your mineral additions, maybe 25%. Because I think they kind of, as it warms up, I wouldn't go. We were joking earlier about licking a rock. It's not that intense, but there's a definite mineral character as it warms that is kind of distracting from what otherwise is a really pleasant, bready, toasty character. So I gave the flavor 11 out of 12. Also symptomatic of bottling from the keg. Mouthfeel, gave a 3 out of 5, primarily because carbonation was very low, and in 2 bottles in a row, it was almost flat. A little bit more carbonation, I think, would really do wonders for this beer. Body's medium. There's very slight warming, creamy, slight astringency. Overall, well made. I think, to me, the primary faults are that it's flat, and the water is perhaps slightly over-adjusted to where it needs to be. I'm not ultimately sure. I mean, I'm not an authority on water by any means. For a maltier style, I don't know how much gypsum you really need as opposed to calcium chloride. And I definitely wouldn't go 1-to-1 if you're going to use both. But I might go, 2-to-1 in favor of the calcium chloride or even 3-to-1, because that's going to emphasize the malt more. Again, I'm not an authority on water, so you probably want to ask somebody in addition to me. But
that makes sense.
Usually the gypsum is what you use to accentuate the hop. That's the water in a nutshell, right? You use the calcium chloride to emphasize maltiness, use the gypsum to emphasize the hops. So for a malty style, you go more chloride. But overall, I thought it was well made. Overall impression is 7 for a total score of 32. So well done.
Nice.
Yeah. I agree a lot with a lot of what the guys said, too. I won't go through my full thing, but just some of the main points of the beer, too. Like, I think that maybe, Matt's not picking up enough bitterness, and Brian's kind of picking up a little more bitterness. It might be that there's an impression of bitterness coming from the combination of what bitterness there is there, which I thought was also fairly low, combined with that kind of biting astringency. It just has kind of a biting impression, and there's pretty evident alcohol here. It's something that might smooth out as it lagers longer. To me, it tasted kind of like a young Marzen, but pretty good with some nice, again, bready toasty and some nice stuff up front. I also got a little bit. I felt like I got a little acetaldehyde that's still in there that the yeast might absorb if you age it a little longer. And yeah, I was just kind of pulled back that there's a little bit of a biting alcohol warmth in the, kind of going into the back of the throat in it. These are all kind of fine points. I gave it a 31. I thought it was a pretty pleasant Marzen. Just a few minor issues that these guys have covered pretty well. But yeah, you want to obviously. I mean, we can talk about your other parts of your recipe and the yeast you used and what you pitched and how vigorous it was and all of that. But just really healthy, vigorous, a right-sized pitch. You know, everybody has access to the calculators out there, but sometimes you want to just go over a little bit just to be safe. You know, because you never know how much of that is actually healthy and vigorous and alive. And if it seems kind of subdued, then yeah, go higher.
Right. Yeah. Very good. Brian with a Y. Do you have any questions for these handsome men?
I guess that's me. No, thank you guys. I appreciate the feedback. Definitely do. I think some of the things you guys were saying kind of resonated with me as well. I think the carbonation level for sure, drinking it off the keg, it's definitely much different. The head is pretty prominent. So I understand that for sure. The questions, I guess, my immediate questions is, so I built the water profile up from distilled water, obviously, like I said. I use brewing water. I used an amber balance profile. So what I heard, I want to play it back. Next time, look to favor more calcium chloride. That's really my takeaway. What about, is there anything to speak to the acid addition? Is it necessary, do you think?
Only Satanists would use that much acid.
Actually, you know what? I would also take away that your overall amount of mineral, I would back off maybe 25 to 30%. And you want to? I would change the mix also, but I would back off because if you change your mix, you're still going to have it be overly minerally, I think. Right. I think you want to back it off, but then change your mix to be maybe 2-to-1 calcium chloride to gypsum and see what happens.
And a lot of calcium will also acidify your mash, take it pretty low as well. So
it's an excellent point.
Yeah.
But as far as acidifying, you're making a fairly a dark Marzen here. I don't know that you need to acidify your mash water all that much. Just get it to where your pH lands, 5.2 to 5.5, somewhere in the middle of there where you want it, and then you would probably benefit from acidifying your sparge water to 6, just to avoid getting any astringency out of those grains. Or, well, I guess you're doing brew in a bag, so
yeah.
Just make sure your pH is right. If it's a little too high, if it's bumping up at 5.5 or 5.6, just you could acidify a little bit. Yeah.
Did you make a starter for this?
So I didn't. I actually I pitched dry yeast staff lager 3470.
Yeah.
So admittedly, there's probably something there. I did pitch it. I didn't even honestly hydrate it, so it was pitched directly. So there could be something there.
Yeah. Wow, everyone just got real mad at you, dude.
Yeah, I know. It's fine. We can hang up now.
We're all in here judging you so hard.
We can't hang up. I have to hang up on you legally. That's what it is. Anything else? I mean, I think the water stuff is pretty good, and that's a good place to start, especially if they're going to keep doing this. I thought it was a good beer overall. Yeah, I do agree a lot with what, Matt, you were saying about the bruised apple kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It's there. Normally, I would attribute it to maybe just like caramel malts, like crystal malts, but, water profile makes a lot of sense, too. So just try that. Forget about it.
Yeah, we'll do, and thanks for the notes on the malt profile. That was my other concern, but it seems like that got good marks, so thanks, guys.
Yeah, get a quart of fresh, healthy yeast from your local microbrewery,
Right.
Yeah, you usually start. The times that I have problems with my beer are the times I don't make a starter, and I go and I get like 2 vials or 3 vials, and think, I don't have time. I'm just going to. Inevitably, those are the ones where I have problems.
Yep.
So make the time, and even with that dry yeast, rehydrate a little. It does help.
Yeah.
Use a little Go Firm sometimes when things like that might help too.
Yeah. Or double the yeast if you're not going to rehydrate, right?
Yeah.
Right.
All right, Brian with a Y. I'm going to let you, Jonathan, go.
All right. Thanks guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys. Thanks a lot. That was cool. Yeah, it was pretty good, man. Hey, anybody who's trying to make lagers,
yeah, man,
I'll listen to you guys tell them how to do it right. Speaking of water adjustments, the Smart Brew Water Testing Kit incorporates a revolutionary photometer system, which is the first and only one on the market with its own app. It's for home or commercial use, the only meter on the market that runs water tests with no math needed on your part. Email the results to the rest of your brew team or post to your Facebook page and let your Homebrew Club get the lowdown on your base water profile. Has the ability to test over 40 different water quality tests. 4 come preloaded, and you can buy more. You can test for stuff like total alkalinity, chloride, calcium hardness, pH, sulfate, and more with only 4 mils of water needed for each test. So go to smartbrewkit.com, enter code TBN10 at checkout, and you can save $10 on either the standard or advanced Smart Brew Testing Kit. All right, we're going to take a quick break here. And we're going to come right back, and we're going to have another beer to drink. This is my favorite style. It's carbonated water. And so I'm looking forward to the... No, anyway. Hang on, everybody. We'll be right back.
Hello, fellow BNers. This is Sully from the 21st Amendment Brewery located in San Francisco, just 2 blocks from Giants Park. Before Nico and I opened the 21A and before I was a professional brewer, I homebrewed on my small 4-burner apartment stove in a back house in Santa Monica, California, making my extract brews before graduating to the daunting idea of all-grain brewing. Homebrew books and information was hard to come by back then. The internet hadn't been invented yet, along with other things we take for granted today, like electricity and potable water. One thing I wish I had back then when I was learning was a radio show that could teach me the ins and outs of brewing and answer questions that I had about homebrewing, a resource for making great craft beer. The 21st Amendment Brewery is excited to be a proud sponsor of Dr. Homebrew, a great show that teaches you what you need to know about making incredible beer. Good stuff. Listen up, you might learn something. I certainly did. And thanks for your support. Tasty Crack Games.
Now, back to the examination.
All right, everybody, thanks for hanging on. Before we get to our second guest, More Beer wants to change your malt game with Viking Malt. Hailing from Northern Europe, Viking Malt is a family-owned malt house since 1883 and is the largest specialty malt producer in the world, apparently. I had no idea. Their base malts are malted from null lox varietals that do not contain the enzyme lipooxygenase, which leads, of course, everybody knows, to trans-2-nonenal in beer, which is responsible for the stale cardboard flavors. So head on over to morebeer.com and brew with ingredients from the future. Future.
I feel like we're living in the future. Are we living in the future?
Are we living in the future? I think we should be living in the future. I'll tell you that right now, while I try to figure out who the hell we're supposed to be talking to.
The future's
Avery.
So right.
I got to get Avery up here. Man, I am not...
You're struggling today, JP.
Yeah,
what's going on, man?
I don't know. I'm just not really used to it.
Everything okay, my friend?
Everything's fine. I just don't care anymore.
I'm actually looking up Viking Malt on my phone as we are doing this because I'm curious who we are. And they're about curiosity and shit. So let's see.
You're curious about who you are as a person?
I'm malt
curious. And I'm contact. That's what I want to say. I'm curious where they're located.
Are you MASH curious?
I am Sweden. Oh, nice. And in Denmark.
You are Sweden.
And Finland. Good Lord, they're
I'm
everywhere.
assuming this is Avery, so we're going to give him a ring and see what's going on. Do we have that other beer open, boys, and poured for your boy here so I can have some?
It's right here, yeah.
Nice.
Pink.
Give some to JP so he can taste this.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Give him a big pour of that hazy IPA.
That's right.
Yeah.
You love it.
I can't wait.
You love it.
I can't wait for that shit. All right, well, Avery's not answering. Thank you very much. So we're just going to go ahead and continue on with the show, and then Avery can let me know when he is available. So who wants to start? Brian Cooper, why don't you start us off? Huh?
All right, yeah. So
wait, that's not him. That was the wrong Avery.
We're judging this as
Jason.
It's yeah.
Hey, look, you know what? He needs like 4 Y's in his name for me to like be able to tell. I don't know, dude.
We're judging this as a specialty IPA, and you're gonna try to catch him.
Yeah, just go ahead.
Okay. This is a clean, pleasant kind of, light mango and melon, a little bit resiny in there, and the malt is pretty subdued. It's in the aroma. It's just a slight kind of bready and little biscuity notes in there. I feel like the esters were medium low, fruity esters, kind of an apricot peach-like presentation, fairly subdued, not super bright or in the way. Just accenting those hops. No DMS or diacetyl. Seems cleanly brewed. I did get a little medium light, kind of clean alcohol in the nose too, which is fine for an IPA, of course. Appearance, it's quite hazy. It's you can kind of see a smudgy version of your finger behind it, but it's bordering on opaque, but you can still see kind of shadows of things through it, but it's got a low whitish head of fine bubbles ringing the glass. The retention seems somewhat poor, or it just didn't really throw much of a head at all when we first poured it. So I would like more there, but could be a glassware issue too here. Everything sometimes in the brewing network comes up a little flat, so it might just be that. But
Brian, I licked these glasses clean myself an hour ago. They should be perfectly fine.
And you hand oiled them?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Char's got jokes today. Watch out.
I'm funny, dude.
Char's feeling good right now, dude.
He's a little squirrely.
Everyone back off Char.
A little squirrely?
He'll get you.
A little squirrely. So in the flavor, it's got a medium high hoppiness with notes of kind of mellow papaya, a little bit of mango, some sharp pininess in there, and it's expressing it fairly grassy, and it's pretty dank, but it's not like extremely intense. It's just kind of a combination of all these different hop components, but it's a little more subdued than maybe desired for the style. The bitterness is actually medium high. I would say it's more than desired for the Northeast IPA. I'm not sure if it's all from Whirlpool hops, or if we can talk to you about your recipe, we'll find out. But there's definitely hop balance, and there's a lot of bitterness and hop flavors there. There's kind of a low, bready, kind of basic base malt behind that. But it's got an interesting kind of the color I didn't really mention. It's kind of a tannish orange color. Kind of interesting colors. Seems a little darker than you might think for the style, but so there's something maybe darker in there, but it doesn't have any super caramelly flavors or anything like that in it. It finishes fairly dry. It doesn't leave too much behind. Aftertaste is hops and some bitterness and alcohol in there. So kind of where it needs to be for the most part. Mouthfeel medium bodied, somewhat creamy. With a bit of alcohol warmth coming through as maybe a little more than I would want, almost. But yes, it's pretty pretty warming in the back of the throat. But I didn't get a lot of any obvious astringency. It still has that kind of creamy mouthfeel that you want in these guys. Carbonation is medium low. Seems like a little lower than you'd want it. But yeah, overall, it's a fairly pleasant Northeast IPA. Enjoyable hop character. I liked the ones that you used. Would like a little bit more. I would back down on the bitterness a fair amount. I don't know if it's if you're just adding just a tiny bit in the boil to keep boilers from happening, but add even less, and maybe and or Whirlpool at a slightly lower temperature. It's definitely going to help you too to bump up the carbonation here. Yes.
This is the first one of these styles of beers that actually tastes like an IPA because there's bitterness. Otherwise, it's not an IPA. I'm sorry. I'm not going to get on that train again. But I don't mind the bitterness on it.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting. It's I guess overall there's something just that tastes slightly dulled and slightly stale in it, and it might just be that these beers are so sensitive and they don't travel well. But I know I'm sure the intern bottled it carefully and took care to.
Well, we have Avery on the line.
Give us the best product. He told me he was gonna.
Avery, are you there?
I am here.
Hey. How's it going, man? Sorry, I called you a little bit early, so that might have thrown you a little bit.
Oh, no, it's okay.
Oh.
It's fine. It only threw me just a little bit, but I recovered.
Hell yeah, dude. That's like a champ. So Brian just went over your beer here, and while we got you, let's just talk a little bit about your history with this style. Is it something you've done before, or what are you looking for with this thing?
No, it's something that I've never done. Obviously, it is it's moving. This is one of the really popular styles that's growing in the industry, and obviously as a home brewer you get a lot of requests from friends and family to make their favorite style. So a lot of friends really like this beer, so I thought I would put my toe in the water and give it a try.
Wow, for your first time, I think it's pretty good.
I score-wise, I gave it a 35 myself. I actually really thought it was a very good beer, very good, especially IPA. Just a little bit like that. I'd like even a little brighter hops and a little less bitterness was kind of the overall thing. But
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that if I could go back, I would have totally cut the bittering hop addition, which was not very much.
Yeah.
But I think it really took me by surprise how bitter it was, even with a pretty small, in my opinion, bittering addition. I think I'd throw it all in the whirlpool and later. And I also think that it was a little darker than I wanted it to be. So I think I'd have to change up the malt bill a little bit to correct that in the future.
Yeah, the color was a little bit weird. It's kind of this tannish, orangey tannish color. So I think probably what happened there was that I did, I used the typical malts, but then I threw in a little bit of honey malt as well, and I think that's what threw off the color. Yeah.
What made you decide to do that? Just trying stuff out?
Yeah, it was just I'd never used honey malt before, and I thought that it might add a little bit of mouthfeel, in addition to the wheat and the flaked oats that I used. But yeah, it was just trying it out.
I like how you wanted more mouthfeel than wheat and flaked oats could give.
Yeah, I guess hearing it said back to me sounds ridiculous.
Yeah. But you know what? And I get that. I still get that. And I've been brewing for like 20 years, man, where it's you have your recipe and then you think about it and you go, well, you know what I could do is I could do this and I could do this and then you just end up changing a whole bunch of shit or adding honey malt. I like honey malt.
I think simplicity is a virtue in brewing, and sometimes we get away from that because you want to try all these cool malts that you've never used before.
Because it's cool, dude, right?
Yeah.
It's
like, look at this honey malt. It must taste like honey, right? And so, I don't know. It was...
dude, honey malt's good. I used to put it in my yogurt when I worked at Morebeer for breakfast.
As a snack.
Yeah, it was tasty.
Yeah. You can easily go down the rabbit hole with recipe formulation, though. You start simple. And then 4 or 5 brews in, next thing you know, you've got everything but the kitchen sink, and you're like, how did I get here?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what you end up doing is you read all of the descriptions to all these malts, and you're like, oh man, that sounds really good. I've never had that, but if that's the character that it adds, I'll just add a little bit of this and I'll add a little bit of that, and then it ends up tasting muddled.
Yep.
Right.
So I think that I'll do it again at some point, but I think the first thing I would do is totally cut the honey malt, and then just don't add any 60-minute boil additions at all. Do all whirlpool.
A few pellets to kind of help prevent boilovers, a little bit. You're fine.
Yeah, exactly. I can drink more when I don't have 60-minute.
Yeah, quarter of an ounce or less. Or use foam control.
Matt, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. All right. So for the aroma, the first thing that hit me was sort of this green apple. I know, Brian, you said that you got this really nice clean ferment. I got sort of an acetaldehyde, but I also got, when I drink this kind of beer, I'm doing this with my hands like people can see me. It's like when you open up a dried mango, a bag of dried mangoes, and you take a big whiff. Yeah. That's what I love about this beer. And I do get some mango. I get some pear. I get some mango. Not a whole lot of grainy aspect to this. A touch piney. Appearance, to Brian's point, it is like a hazy deep gold, which kind of lends sort of a dirty
dirty dishwater.
Yeah. It was pretty muddy looking.
And a very thin foam. I'm sure drinking it. It's keg. Did you bottle it from a keg? I'm assuming.
Yeah. So I went with the keg just because it's sort of, especially with this style, from what I've read, it's just so sensitive to oxygen. So I just did not want to. I don't have bottling line. So the only way that I can purge my vessels and make sure that the transfer is totally oxygen free is by kegging it first and then bottling it after.
Right.
Having a little more CO2 would also drive some more of those hop aromatics out too. So that would help here.
So is it a little flat to you guys?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
It's really flat.
Not really flat, but just kind of, medium low.
But I've never had this style that has any carbonation to it. I've had a lot of
that's true, right? I mean, I guess that, you could make the argument that within the IPA realm, this should have the least amount of carbonation because you want to kind of go low on the acidity and have it a rounder mouthfeel and
not sharp,
and sweeter, et cetera.
But I find because you don't have a whole lot of hop bitterness in this beer typically, you want to balance a lot of that thick, chewy oatiness with a little more carbonation. As far as the flavor, I get a little. I wrote meaty. I also get like this very deep oaty, sort of caramelly aspect. And I say meaty, and it kind of goes back to the green apple. I'm wondering about the pitch of yeast.
So with the pitch was interesting because I usually do yeast starters. I did, so I used the London Ale 3 yeast. And then I was doing a starter, and then I left home. And usually what I do is I take a piece of aluminum foil and we'll put it just sort of loosely on top of the Erlenmeyer flask where I'm doing it so that it can sort of let off some of that CO2. I ran out of aluminum foil, so I put plastic wrap and then put a rubber band around it. And so it ended up blowing up and it was just, it was right on the top of our dresser. My wife... Yeah, she was.
That's how you make a
let's
wife
not
happy.
talk about that part. And so what I ended up having to do was go back to the yeast shop. I'd ran out of time at this point to do a full starter, so I just pitched a straight, like a smart pitch. I think it was either 4 or 5 of them. I think that we got maybe 9 gallons into the fermenter. Something like that.
Okay.
So that's what happened with the yeast.
Right. And that probably answers a couple of questions as far as where I was going with the fermentation character. But I do get a lot of like that creamy oatiness. It's very chewy. I do get a slight tropical note, like I said, sort of an overly ripe mango. As far as the hop bitterness goes, I would definitely back down on that. When I brew that beer, I like to do a hop stand at 180 during Whirlpool, and that's it. That is it. I don't even put a pellet in for foam. I Whirlpool down through the heat exchanger down to 180. And then I throw all my hops into a 20-minute Whirlpool and let it sit for 20 minutes and then throw it into the fermenter. And, and then a hell of a lot of dry hops in this beer. Now, this beer is kind of weird because the esters and the hops play together. They interact together. So a lot of those mango-y flavors is sort of a conglomerate, right, of your esters and your hops, so I'm liking where it's going with that. I do like that really nice tropical sort of passion fruit mango-y flavor I'm getting from this. I would definitely reduce any kind of color malt in this.
Yep.
Because like I said,
I totally agree.
It kind of gives sort of a dirty, especially with a hazy beer. Any kind of color malt's going to make it look a little dirty. And then backload the hell out of this beer with dry hops and whirlpool hops at a lower temperature whirlpool. That way you're not extracting a whole lot of bitterness. You're not getting a whole lot of isomerization, but you're getting a lot of oils that stay in solution.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree.
Maybe.
So I think,
shut it.
I want to say 4.5 ounces total of hops went for a 5-minute boil addition, and then another 4.5 ounces went into the whirlpool, and the whirlpool was held at 175.
Nice.
But yeah, I did Bravo for the bittering addition, and it was 3/4 of an ounce. So, and that got me, according to Beersmith, 25 IBUs just from that. So I think that I would totally cut the Bravo completely.
You get a lot of perceived bitterness from dry hops too. You don't necessarily need to isomerize hops to get bitterness out of it. Just pop a pellet in your mouth. And
I don't know if I would tell anyone to do that, because it is rough.
Right. Brian, what do you?
You don't isomerize with your tongue, Matt?
I guess
that's between him and his wife. Leave it alone.
That's
do you have anything to contribute, Brian, that the other two have not?
I do, not a huge amount. I'm not going to go through my whole score sheet here.
Okay.
I thought the aroma was very hop focused and had a real orange juice character. And in the aroma, and especially in the flavor, it really got the tangerine, like those little bitty ones, the cuties they sell them at here in the grocery store. You get the sack of the little oranges, and my daughter loves them. And
official citrus of Walt Disney World. By the way, cuties, yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, you do.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
I agree that I got, a few episodes ago, Nicole Ernie brought up, I think very helpfully, that acetaldehyde often has like a raw pumpkin character. And she brought that up when we were drinking my beer, which tasted like you were shoving your head inside a pumpkin or something, which was just a bad idea. And I got definitely some raw pumpkin in the aroma and in the flavor of this beer. But when you mentioned honey malt, I did start to wonder, was I really getting raw pumpkin or was I getting the honey malt? Because honey malt can have some kind of off-putting. Sometimes it's great, and maybe it's good on your yogurt, like JP was doing. But
it was good.
When you brew with it, I've had beers made with honey malt, and they can kind of go both ways. So maybe this is not acetaldehyde. I'm willing to be wrong on that.
Have we talked about how much honey malt you have?
No, it wasn't. So I'll kind of run through. It was about 7% of the grain bill. So it was 1.5 pounds of honey malt.
Oh, yeah.
That's a lot.
That's a lot, yeah.
And 9 gallons, yeah.
So I'm willing to believe that it's not acetaldehyde. I'm getting something that's raw pumpkin-y. That's actually more of a honey malt character in here.
So I'm getting it kind of myself as maybe a kind of a dulled and slightly stale thing. And to me, when malt starts to oxidize, it goes through a honey-like kind of stage, And I don't think that's helping this beer at all.
I'm getting it as like a brake pad dust, eraser, carburetor fluid, lightning bolt thing.
Oh yeah,
if you guys
Chrysler
can,
or a Chevy.
Well, that's for me. That's for only the brewer knows for sure. I'd use honey malt in a porter, in my pure porter actually, and I would use 4 ounces of it in like 10 gallons. So
pound and a half.
So I went overboard on that one.
I think I just echo what everybody else said, which is leave that out next time.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I think that it was the carbonation was low, which also didn't, I think, do you any favors in this beer. But overall, I thought it was a drinkable. It was a good beer. I gave this a 28 out of 50 overall. So
excellent.
It was good.
Cool. Avery, do you have any questions for the guys? Lingering questions? Burning
just
question?
as a recap in terms of how to improve the beer in the future, you guys wanted me to double or triple the amount of honey malt. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, right. So do that,
honey
and
malt
then
is your base malt.
Make sure you always have aluminum foil on hand, plenty of foil.
Is 100% too much? Actually, brew with aluminum foil.
Yeah, I think that and cutting the boil addition, and then I mean, in terms of the AA flavor, so I have for fermentation control, I have pretty tight control because I use SS BrewTech in there. I have all the heating and chilling with that conical fermenter. So I'm just wondering, other than obviously keeping a close eye on the yeast health and even maybe the honey malt sort of mixing up those flavors, and what else would you guys, in terms of suggestions, say to reduce that flavor in the future, the AA flavoring, the apple flavor?
I think that acetaldehyde flavor you're getting from this beer in particular is probably from a yeast pitch that wasn't big enough.
Gotcha. Okay.
I think you're on point with your fermentation control, but your yeast health, yeast pitch, obviously kicking that honey malt to the curb, and I use a little about 3.5% carafoam in mine. That's a really nice mid malt bodybuilding. So yeah, my recipe basically is pale malt. I use raw pale, flaked oats, carafoam, wheat, two kinds of wheat malt and flaked wheat.
Right,
and that's about it. There's really no color at all to mine.
Okay. Yeah.
And just make that starter. I said that earlier in this episode with the previous beer. That one that I made that was all raw pumpkin that got Nicole talking about the raw pumpkin was one where I just didn't have time to make a starter, and I got a couple of pitches at the store and just put them right into the fermenter. And that's the times that I have acetaldehyde or I have problems is when I don't make a starter. I think, I'll just pitch more. And maybe for some people that works. For whatever it is in my system and how I brew, when I don't make a starter, bad things happen.
Yeah.
Or you have to severely overpitch.
Yes,
because I do 2.5 gallons now, and I just do one tube of White Labs. I don't make a starter. Yeah. It ends up being fine, but maybe I really should do more. But yeah, yeast health is it's super important for the obvious reasons.
Right.
So actually, speaking of yeast starters, this is something that I've thought about, and maybe I could throw it your guys' way and see if you guys have some insight. But when I do a yeast starter, I run it. Once it's done, I put it in the fridge so that it settles out a little more quickly, and then that way I can decant it a little more effectively, so that I'm just throwing in the yeast and none of the nasty fake beer, the starter beer. But I've always been worried about putting the yeast in the fridge after doing the starter. Is that shocking them by putting them in there? And then also, what is the best way to warm them back up again so that when I put them into the beer, they're not going from fridge to
exhale on them, while you're warming your hands up. Do that over the mouth of the starter, and that usually works for me.
I think
they like that.
I think you're doing the right thing with putting it in the fridge, letting it fall out so you can decant some of the nasty beer off. What I like to do is just pull my Erlenmeyer out of the fridge the day of my brew and let it warm up to room temp during the brew. That way it's ready to go when I'm ready to pitch.
Yeah, yeast are a little more sturdy than everyone gives them credit for, especially home brewers, because we have to be very careful and everything's super important. But then it's like just knowing your kid. You're like, okay, the kid's fine.
Well,
yeast is fine.
Think about what's actually going on here, though. The reason you don't want to crash is because the yeast will die and they'll excrete their insides into the beer and bad flavors happen. You don't want that, right?
Hell yeah.
So if you're doing that at the end of your fermentation in your fermenter, obviously you don't want to do that because you're affecting the flavor of all the beer you just spent 2 weeks fermenting. But if what you're trying to do is take your starter and get all that liquid out, most of the liquid out, and leave the slurry behind, really, when you crash it, they're going to emit all that bad stuff to the extent they emit bad stuff into the liquid you're going to pour out anyway.
Right.
So that stuff's going to be gone. So when you just kind of think of the rationale and what's actually physically happening, that makes a lot of sense to me. And quite often I'll do that with my fridge, with my starter, depending on the size of the starter. Because sometimes if you're making a lager, you have a gallon starter.
Sure.
You don't want to dump a gallon of this stuff into 5 gallons. You want to get that liquid out. But you also don't want to favor that. I mean, the reason you crash it is you don't want to favor the yeast that's already dropped out of fermentation, the stuff that poops out early. You want to get them all to drop out, and then you put them all back into your actual wort. So for that reason, I never see the fridge issue as a problem.
Yeah, another trick you can do, too, is especially if you do have a substantial temperature difference, if it's more than 5 or especially 10 degrees, is to acclimate the yeast by adding some of the wort that's going to be fermenting. And also, if you have a wort that's like, let's say you made a 1032 starter or 1040, and you're going to be fermenting a 1070 or 1080, monster beer or something, you want to acclimate it to what it's going to be chewing on and just add a little bit at a time to it, every 10 minutes or something, just while you're just kind of waiting to pitch it, getting to the right temperatures on your in your fermenter. Just add a little bit at a time until it kind of comes up a few degrees at a time and gets happy, and then it's ready to pitch and kind of go. It kind of wakes up again and is ready to go.
Yeah, that's actually a really good idea, because the other issue is that if you decant all that fluid off, it's even with a stir plate, it's kind of hard to get it moving. Again, you kind of have to have some liquid in there. So after the end of the brew day, you could just take a little bit of the wort that you've already made, throw it in there, let it mix up, let it get up to the right temp, and then pitch.
Yeah, I like doing that. Yeah.
Gotcha.
All right, Avery. Well, if that's it, man, we'll let you go.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah,
all right.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Yeah. Happy brewing.
Thank you.
Bye. Cool.
Yeah, that was a fun beer. I like that. I like the hops used in it.
Yeah, it wasn't super offensive, that's for sure. Speaking of not being offensive, the city of Concord is the perfect place to start or expand your craft beer business. Concord is centrally located in the Bay Area. It boasts strong craft beer-loving demographics. The city's historic downtown is experiencing a boom with new businesses opening and new apartment developments in the pipeline. Concord's business and industrial parks are centrally located off major freeways and are perfect for large-scale brewing operations. The city's economic development team is helped ready to successful location. Successful. Give Brian Nunnally a call at 925-671-3018. He's ready to help you open up your business in Concord.
Industry, progress, the city of the future.
3M has that and more. All right. We're taking a break. We're coming back. We're giving some stuff away, and we're leaving. That's the kind of in the generic order of stuff.
And drinking more beer, too, I hope.
Hang on. We'll be right back.
Do you know the 3 most important rules in brewing? Sanitation, sanitation, and sanitation. And no one does it better than 5-Star Chemicals. 5-Star knows sanitation. You can only sanitize clean equipment. And 5-Star knows how to clean, too. For craft brewers and home brewers, 5-Star has what you need to keep your fermenters, serving tanks, kegs, and draft lines sparkling and free of any beer-spoiling bacteria. PBW, caustic, acid cleaners, Star San, SaniClean, lubricants and defoamers, pH stabilizers, and more. 5-Star Chemicals has cleaning supplies, safety supplies, heat exchangers, pumps, hoses, and valves. And 5-Star is proud to offer eco-friendly products that exceed customer expectations. If you have a cleaning problem, you need the 5-Star solution. Visit 5starchemicals.com or call 800-782-7019. 800-782-7019 and get the 5-Star treatment today.
Are you a member of the White Labs Customer Club? If not, you should be. It's the easiest way to earn free stuff for turning in your old homebrew labels from either Vials or Pure Pitch. All you have to do is save your labels and redeem them for things like free yeast, an exclusive White Labs t-shirt or sweatshirt, and even the opportunity to brew with the yeast man himself, Chris White. Signing up is easy. Just go to whitelabs.com/customer club, fill out the registration form, and then mail in your labels. They will return the favor by sending you awesome White Labs swag. Go sign up today at whitelabs.com/customer club. White Labs, pure yeast and fermentation since 1995.
I'm sorry to tell you this, but going to have to pour you out.
Back to Dr. Homebrew.
Thanks for hanging out, everybody.
I like your shirt, JP.
Thank you. Skulls and Scratch Cat.
Orange skulls. And
I don't know if you guys knew this, but Learn to Homebrew Day is November 3rd.
What?
The American Homebrewers Association, organizers of Learn to Homebrew Day.
I want to learn.
Which is a day dedicated to sharing the joys of homebrewing with friends and family. This November 3rd, we invite you to attend a Learn to Homebrew Day event near you or host your own. Visit the AHA website at homebrewersassociation.org to view a map of Learn to Homebrew Day events as well as resources for promoting your own Learn to Homebrew Day gathering.
We should host an event. Maybe we could plan ahead for next year.
I think you should do
Just
that at your house as far away from you as possible.
Right here.
Where?
Right, with you.
In the studio?
Yeah.
With me?
Yeah.
Starring you. No.
We could do it at JP's house on his Pico brew. That'll be like pretty cool. We could put it out in your garage, invite like thousands of listeners.
Yeah, that sounds great. I like people a lot, and that will only help. All right, let's give away a $40 gift certificate to Grog Tag. Go to grogtag.com. They have absolutely everything you need. No, that's the more beer read. They have everything you want to customize labels and stuff at GrogTag.
And metal signs for your garage. The Grog Tag goes to Brian with a Y.
Brian with a Y. All right, Brian.
By like 0.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's like by a third of a point.
It was a hard decision to make.
Very close.
Is that a record?
Maybe.
Sure. If we kept
I had
records.
to do math this time, and yeah.
That's a record.
Usually I don't.
Excuse me. God bless almighty. All right. Well, Brian, good job. Avery, sorry your beer was better, I guess. I don't really know what to say to this.
I'd like to thank Brian Shar for taking over last time, too. That was awesome.
Yeah, Brian Shar, good job.
He did a fine job.
Thank you very much.
You did a fine job. What would you give him? Very good?
I haven't listened to it yet.
Good? Oh, well.
Like a 28, 29?
But he did a fine job. I just know by the way he
Would that be like it's to style with minor flaws?
Yeah, it's a very good, bordering on excellent.
Yes.
I think at the end of every quarter we should all do judge score sheets based on how did we think like feedback. Anyway, everybody, thank you very much for listening to this episode of Dr. Homebrew, and until next time, we'll see you later.